between multimodal, you know, trains and buses. We've got them all in Chicago, train, bus, freight, the whole schmear. There is some thought, as regional planning goes, that the way federal government is organized doesn't just look at what an area needs, but has too much money siloed into these different modes, which doesn't lend itself towards the smartest thinking. What are your thoughts on this proper allocation of resources?
Well, again, that's why my proposal of a national infrastructure fund would go right to the heart of choosing the best projects that provide the best return on investment, that maximize efficiency, and that have a long-term vision on maintenance and new projects. To answer your question, I do support efforts that create a more equitable balance between transit, mass transit, and roads. The system as we have it now basically incentivizes states and municipalities to reward them for getting people in their cars, which quite frankly flies in the face of common sense. And that's something that, as we look at the next transportation reauthorization bill, it's something that we need to fix.
Okay, another issue dealing with transportation this may or may not be the right place, but I want to put it in. Cap and trade, this will also transition to our energy question. You may or may not know this, but Wednesday in the White House, there's a big meeting with Obama and the Senate leaders to talk about an energy bill. But even some Democrats now are thinking that cap and trade is not the way to go. I know you're a backer of cap and trade. If you all know you need 60 votes in the Senate to get something done. What's your backup in order to fund some of these projects?
Well, look, as I've said, I think the biggest challenge facing us as a nation, and something that, quite frankly, is a stark difference between myself and my opponent, I think we need to put a price on carbon. I think from not just a moral perspective do we need to reduce our reliance on foreign oil and take climate change very seriously, but from a job creation, from a global competitiveness, from a national security perspective, we have to invest in clean energy. We have to have a sense of urgency. How many highlights do we have to see every morning of oil gushing into the Gulf? How many times do we have to hear stories and more scientists coming out and saying that we have to act with a greater sense of urgency? We have an opportunity right now for the next generation of leaders in the U.S. Senate and the House to start looking seriously at solar, wind, geothermal, biomass, and we need to do that, and I would do anything in my power to make sure that we had a sense of urgency and we move that forward. I obviously said that a cap on carbon is the best way to do that, but I think even more important than a cap on carbon is increasing the renewable energy standards, which will force all of us to start thinking a little more wisely about the type of energy we choose to use.
The fourth question, and I feel the clock is running down, I'm going to have a question to transition, is going to be about Great Lakes and water, but as you all know, one of the biggest crises our country is facing right now is the deepwater oil spill in the Gulf. President Obama has proposed a 6-month moratorium on deep water drilling. Should there be a longer moratorium, and should it be extended to shallow water drilling?
I am on the record, and I continue to be in favor of a 6-month moratorium until we make sure that what took place in the Gulf never happens again. I don't think that's out of line. I think it's something we should look at. But again, Lynn, this goes to the bigger picture. If we are really serious about limiting our impact on the environment, if we're serious about creating the next generation of private sector green jobs, if we're serious about reducing our carbon footprint, if we're serious about all these things, then we have to start moving towards a clean energy sector, and that's more important going forward, but I am in favor of a 6-month moratorium.
The lake itself has a lot of issues going on it. One of the questions, as you know, is to deal with the allocation of the Great Lakes water supply. Another issue with the lake that is something that we didn't even think about years ago is the Asian carp invasion. Since this is a big picture group, one of the big picture ideas is to re-reverse the Chicago River in order to deal with this and get it back to the way nature started the process. What are your thoughts on reversing the Chicago River? Because it would be a massive federal works project if it were to be, and it would be a big project on the plate of United States senators.
Well, before I get to the river question, and I have Mayor Daley very mad at me. Let me just say that we are obviously very fortunate to be sitting next to the largest body of fresh water, one of the largest in the world, and every expert agrees that if we manage it wisely, Lake Michigan and local aquifers will be able to serve this region indefinitely. I do want to make sure that we have federal policy that promotes better water use planning and better local collaboration. I'm going to give you two examples. Number one, and this will get to when I answer your river question, is infrastructure. Right now, we lose about 10 million gallons of water a day because of ruptured gas leaks and not gas leaks, excuse me, water leaks, known water leaks. This goes back to investing in a national infrastructure fund, not only from a conservation and from an environmental perspective, but from a cost perspective. If we do the right thing, if we invest in maintaining our infrastructure and bringing it up to speed so we don't so our infrastructure is not obsolete, it will be a short-term stimulus for the region, and long-term we will save hundreds of millions of dollars because we will be able to issue water permits, and it's a smarter way to do business. Number two, the second example, is that right now federal laws don't do a good job balancing water quality with water quantity. Right now, the Clean Water Act and the Clean Water Drinking Act focus almost entirely on the quality of our water, and that's an important goal, but it will all be for naught if we deplete our water sources. We need to incorporate mechanisms that help reduce consumption, things like green infrastructure, water reuse, conservation, and a better use of stormwater. To answer your river question, we lose about 500 million gallons of purified water because of the way that the river flows away from Lake Michigan. I do think going forward long-term, it's smart to try and redirect that water, to clean it up first, and redirect it into Lake Michigan. So yes.
So you would like to reverse, as a long-term proposition, to reverse the Chicago River?
Ultimately, yes.
On it. Now, what is... Okay, let's hear it for the river.
I'm assuming Mayor Daley's not sitting in back.
On there. How much time do we have left here? We have, okay, 1 or 3? Okay, thank you. Now, one of the things in looking at your infra and your energy plan that came out, I was struck that you had no mention of the role of mass transit in reducing the need for energy. What is, in your policy thinking, is the role of government in getting people to reduce energy consumption, which has an impact, in a sense, on all 4 questions that you've been talking about today?
Thank you, Lynn. That's a perfect question. And this encompasses everything we've talked about here today. Smarter long-term infrastructure, sustainable communities, federal agencies working together, having a vision for where we want to be in 20, 30, 40 years from a land use perspective, from an environmental perspective, making sure that we encourage the private sector to get involved, that federal government works with MPOs to create things like an affordability index study, mapping tools, research and evaluations to help businesses and developers and large employers enthused about coming to this region, smarter about the way we create housing opportunities, affordable housing, and where how we help large employers decide where to start their business, expand their business, and mass transit has an incredibly important role, which is why I'm so proud to talk about my National Infrastructure Fund, which has, again, a long-term perspective on dealing with these issues where we do it the right way. We take politics out of it. We have the best and brightest folks in the country making these decisions.
Who would appoint that, by the way? Who would appoint those people?
Well, I'm less concerned about the makeup.
I want to know. Who would appoint those people?
Well, the way I envisioned it was, HUD would get 2 or 3 appointments. The EPA would have 3 appointments. The Department of Transportation would have 3 appointments. The administration would have a couple appointments. And the House and Senate can decide how they want. I know you're thinking right now, you're cynical and thinking those will be political as well. See, I'm reading your mind. But I can tell you...
I had another point, but...
But I can tell you that what's more important is that we get folks in there who are the best and the brightest, urban planners, geologists, transportation officials who understand that unless we start being smarter about our large-scale projects, we are going to continue to fall behind other countries the way we are with China and other leading European nations.
Okay, is our time up now?